No, there's only a... There we go. We'll just check that we are live. Bear with. No, the only countdown you can do is like 30 seconds, which just seems so long. Yeah, we're live. We're live. We're streaming on Facebook and YouTube. We're all good. Chris Gibbons, welcome to the Financial Freedom with Alex Louise podcast. It's great to have you on.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time. There's a theme running in my podcast, which is there's quite a few people that I've known for several decades, that it's a really interesting time to speak, to see where you started, what happened, where you are now and where you're heading to. So before we get into the kind of conversations and talking about your business and what you're doing now and where you're going, do you want to just give us a little bit of background of who you are, a whistle-stop talk to today, and then we can get into some interesting chat.
Blimey. I think the first time we met was probably at BNI. So yeah. That was my first venture into businesses. I was a business coach, far too young, far too unqualified, far too sort of naive to realize that I didn't know what I was doing, but gave it a good go and probably did. Oh, I'm hearing myself.
Right, now. We're getting feedback then from the Facebook feed. Sorry, carry on.
And yeah, so we met then. Grew up in South Wales. Moved to South Wales when I was about 8 years old from London. My parents we lived in Australia. So originally we lived in Australia, and then they got kicked out of the country. So I grew up with parents who sort of, well, I think that's maybe where the sort of the thought that I could be a business coach, maybe that comes from my peers, my kind of parents' fault. I think they kind of thought that they could break the rules, go to Australia without a visa. They got kicked out, contested it, literally did get kicked out, got sent back to the UK with me, and then applied for a visa, got one, went back, stayed for a few months and decided, we don't want to stay here, and came back to the UK again. So it's like, I think that sort of, that was, my parents were kind of, quite encouraging to go and try things out, and I think that's where it all started with the permission really to not go to school. So I left school when I was 16. Then I went back, then I left, then I went back. So I was, kind of floating around for a few years, not really committed to schooling. I didn't really enjoy all of that. So I was quite lucky to have parents who just gave me sort of permission to go and give things a go. And I've been giving things a go ever since. So that's probably when we met. We met when I was I think I was 21, 22 when I first started going to BNI as a business coach.
Yeah, sounds about right. I was maybe 26, I think, when I started BNI. So that's about right. It's interesting that you say, I was so underqualified and all this, because actually I still remember some of the stuff you taught me then when you were my business coach now. So it's funny how we perceive things as well, because you look back now and think, oh God, I didn't know anything. But actually, even then, you look back now and you say, I didn't know anything, but you still had, brilliant information and questions. And I don't think that bit's changed in the sense of how you look at things. I think you've got, wiser and know more. But I'm not sure I'd go so far as to say, wouldn't write yourself off when you were younger.
No, I don't think I'm writing myself off, but I think it's important to be aware of where you are. I look back at some of the things I thought I could do and gave a go to. And while I don't think that I would change it and sort of give anyone the advice not to give those things a go, I don't think I was aware that I wasn't as good as I thought I was, if that makes sense. I thought I was better than I thought I was. And there's some good things around that. It gave me some energy to go and try some things.
Yeah.
But also it kind of what's the word? I guess it was a, you know, I think it's I think we've talked about this before, actually. It's about, I think, because if you're in an environment where you're a business coach, or you're putting yourself under a lot of pressure to do something where maybe other people haven't trodden before. So 21-year-old business coach going into a room of people to try to tell them, you know, to help them grow their business is an odd thing. It's a strange thing for them to see. It's a strange thing for me to do. And to get to the place where you're comfortable to do that, you have to do this sort of fake it till you make it type process. You have to kind of put a cloak on and go into the room with a guard up to kind of to present yourself in a way that gives you permission to go and help people. You can't walk in there being a typical 21-year-old, because you wouldn't get listened to, if that makes sense. So although I was passionate about it, I really wanted to do it, I felt like there was a lot of faking it till I made it going on, and that was hard work. So yeah, I think that's why I look back on those times, and I'm not jumping. I'm not patting myself on the back, singing my praises, saying how amazing it was, because it was really hard, and I felt it was really hard every day. Yeah.
And so, what? Just fill in the gap between. So you left school at 16. What did you do between 16 and 21? Just so people get a sense of.
Yeah. So I left school, and decided to go traveling with a friend. He didn't want to go. I didn't have any money. So instead, I got a door-to-door sales job selling gas and electricity. So an ad in the paper. I went for a job interview in Cardiff, where I turned up at this guy's house. It was a self-employed guy looking for more self-employed agents. He was on some kind of commission deal, and he was looking for young kids to basically go knock on the door and give them £20 for every deal. So I turned up to what I thought was a job interview. This guy opens the door in his dressing gown, fag in his mouth, coffee, and he's like, well, and I said, me and my friend were there together, and we said, we're here for the interview. We had suits on and shined our shoes. And I was like, this guy, you know, there was like a sofa in this guy's garden. It was not what I was expecting. Went in. He says, do you want a cup of tea? And he gives us a cup with mold stains on the side. It was really, really gross. So I took the job. And did some sales training with him. And he came out with us 2 or 3 times and taught us how to knock doors and taught us how to engage with a customer. I was absolutely awful at it. I was quite shy and timid, and was really lacking in confidence, and that's why I thought it'd be a good thing to go and do, and gave it a go for a few months, sold a few deals to some friends and some family members, didn't sell anything to anyone else. So I did a few jobs like that for a while. I don't know what it was that kept me going. Probably I didn't really have a plan. I knew I wanted to do something in business, and you know, I think I was never particularly good at school. I was always given sort of the careers lesson. You know, when you get to what's the careers advisor, and they would always give me they would always say, you're going to go and be a nurse, or you're going to go and be something to do with looking after kids, or something just sounded shit, you know, to me. not that those jobs are shit, but it just, I had no interest.
It wasn't a match. 100%.
That's not what I want to do. And I wasn't very academic, and you know, the idea, when I did mention about business and going into sales and, you know, things like, I didn't really know what it was at the time, but whenever I talked about those things, I wasn't really encouraged. I was almost smirked at, I suppose, like, how are you going to do that? You can't write, you can't pass an exam, you're in the bottom class for everything. So I don't know what kept me going through that time. I can't really remember the details, because it was an awful experience of like the knocking on the doors. But I somehow came out the end of it, and then there was a job that I noticed in Newport in a call center. sounded much more appealing than knocking on doors. Managing, first of all, on the phones, but then managing a team of 5, I think it was 10 telemarketers selling mobile phone contracts. So I was 19, and I went into that job, really enjoyed that one because it was selling. I was quite good at it because I'd spent so long knocking on doors, which I was terrible at, and that's really hard. And this, compared to knocking on doors, was easy because I'm sat on the phone and I'm just chatting to people. And it was mobile phones. I was quite interested in tech and things like that. Back then, that was, a mobile phone was still quite a novel thing. You know, I think we were starting to sell them when Bluetooth was just like becoming a big thing. So the big selling points was like, this phone's got Bluetooth. Let me explain what Bluetooth is. And
it's just amazing, isn't it? And then fast forward 15 years and look where we are. I mean, it's just, we're the last generation that grew up without them and have adopted them well. And it's fascinating to be having this kind of conversation at our age. You know, you're late 30s, I'm early 40s, and we're having a conversation about something that I didn't think would happen in our lifetime. You know, our parents talk about records and the stuff like before that, and landlines and electricity. And I didn't think there'd be anything so big like that. You know, my grandma grew up without electricity in the beginning.
Well, it's not, we're not over yet. So yeah, but you say that we're the last generation. So that's true. But when, you know, when VR rigs become like everyday accessories, when we get contact lenses that you can't see, that project whatever images we want in front of us. So, you know, our kids will be saying, we were the last generation to look through our real eyes. Can you imagine looking through those old, you know, a real eye? Like that's the sort of conversation people are going to be having. You know, there's Yanina got my wife got laser eye surgery that last week, and which has been, you know, around for ages, but the way they did it this time was they cut open her eye and they implanted a lens and then they seal it back over, and the whole procedure takes about a minute. Like the actual thing takes about 30 seconds per eye. They whip it over. She's never been able to see. Her glasses are like comedy glasses. You know, they're thick. They're really heavy and thick if she has to wear them. She's been wearing lenses ever since I've known her, and it's like 3 minutes and she walks out and she's like, I can see.
Wow.
And like, we haven't started yet. You know, this is like, it's exciting. Yeah. There's a long way to go. Yeah.
So fast forward you're doing all kinds of sales. Then you start rocking up at networking events, coaching people on business. So were you at that point working with Action?
No. So I left. I got headhunted, which, I mean, I say I got headhunted. That's what the guy told me. So stroke it. I mean, I was quite. I quite enjoyed having my ego stroked. I think this recruiter came knocking on the door, standing in the car park rather, of the mobile phone company, and basically just grabbed everyone as they were coming out. Who are the best salespeople here? Who wants to come for an interview for a new job? And me and 3 guys went for an interview and got the job to become part of a flying squad, they called it. Selling gas and electricity again, but we were basically being shipped around the country to go to areas that were underperforming, and we would go in and sort of boost sales for a period.
Yeah.
And that was incredible. So that was, I suppose, I did it for about 18 months. I was 19 to, no, maybe younger. Must have been 18, 19. Yeah, it must have been 18, 19. And we got paid so much money. We got our hotels paid for at the time. I think my first year I made about 48 grand, and I was 18, and that was a lot of money for anyone.
I'd say it still is today, right? Actually, if a 19-year-old got paid that, it would, you know.
Yeah, it was too much money for us. It was too much money for me to handle without money education. I blew it all. But we were living away. We were living in hotels. They would pay for the hotel. So, I mean, a lot of that money that I talk about was like paid it to us in expenses. Plus, we would get commission. And it was too much. They closed the team down in about 18 months because the deal they were paying us wasn't working out for them.
Yeah.
And it was good fun. And it was, you know, it was what you would expect 18, 19-year-olds to do if they were given a lot of money, traveling around the country, living in hotels, and no boss. And the job is to go and do 10 sales a week in an area where you can knock that out in a day if you're good, and the rest of the week you'd sit in the pub and do whatever you want. It was that kind of thing. And as fun as it was, a few things happened there, and I decided it was time to go. There was a few things happened, as you would expect when you put a bunch of kids together, really, for that period of time. There was about 9 of us in the end, living together, working together, constantly, and eventually it took its toll, and I thought I'll go get a job. So I looked in the paper one weekend. I came back home to Wales, sat looking in the paper. I saw this advert that said coaching company looking for office manager, growing the coaching business. I thought, sounds interesting. I'll give it a go. I can be an office manager. Don't know where the idea of that came from. Went for the interview, and they said, have you got any experience being an office manager? And I said, well, my mum and dad have got a company. I've been in their office. And what's your experience with IT, can you do bookkeeping and accounting? And I said, well, I know my mum uses Sage to do her accounts, and I've seen that. So yeah, I probably could do that. And this guy was like, whatever I ask, you're telling me yes. So all right, I'll give you a go. So I was 19. Yeah. Tom Malone, great mentor, very interesting character. Anyway, I got the job, turned up to the job, and was a bit confused because I thought a coaching company was like a transport business. I thought it was like traveling, taking people around the country. No one actually explained to me while I was there. And then I sort of figured out that it was this franchise that had just come over to the UK from Australia, Action Coach, or Action International it was back then. So I was part of the team who were selling the franchise licenses, setting up the first business coaching offices, worked in the franchise office for 1.5 years. And then I'd say I bought a license. I think I was probably cajoled into start getting a license. And I mean, it's that kind of environment. You're around super positive people, like I talked about before, who are probably their optimism outweighs their ability. And I'm like, and they're like, yeah, you could be a business coach, Chris. They're giving me incredible amounts of encouragement, incredible amounts of coaching. It's brilliant. You've got all these guys from Australia who've been doing it for sort of 8 or 9 years, flying in to teach the UK how to do it. You got really good. I was surrounded by some really good people, and I'm still in touch with most of them today. And they sort of set me on a path to kind of hone my skills and like actually put some effort into picking where I want to go and working on how to get there, working on getting better, putting some effort into those sorts of things. So started there, really.
Wow. And I think it's really important for people to hear that, because people looking at you today might go, oh, wow, look at you, your lifestyle now. Just for people who don't know you live in Germany, which is where Yanina's originally from. You come back over to Wales. You live in what Charlie, my little one, calls the castle, which is, a grand design's folly, but we call it Chris from the castle. It's a beautiful house. From to the outside world, you have this jet set, lifestyle, which we know and we can talk about, actually when you've got 3 kids and they're in Germany and you're over here and traveling back and forth, it may look glamorous, but actually it's hard. But you've been in the quote unquote trenches to get there. This is not like something that just happens. You've done the hard stuff. And I think lots of people try and avoid that. They try and avoid the selling. They try and avoid the just giving stuff a go. They try and avoid looking bad. They try and avoid feeling stupid. And what I'm hearing is you've gone there and you're like, well, I'll give it a go. And you give it a go.
I think that's not ever going to change. Like, so, you know, it's talking about myself is strange. I avoid it quite frequently, or as frequently as I can. A few years ago, I was kind of jumping into social media and putting some videos out there, and I'm not against that. I think it's a good thing to do, but I've pulled right away from that over the last couple of years and been a bit more private and been a bit more sort of true to who I like to be. If I was never seeking out opportunities to be in front of the camera, and that I was giving it a go because that's in my nature to give stuff a go. But I've kind of, I think what I'm trying to say is, even now, like you said, you said about people might see it, how people might perceive my life. Even now, I'm pushing myself in all sorts of areas that are making me uncomfortable. I do question why. I do question what's the point? You know, it's like sometimes it's like, you know, do I need to keep putting myself under this pressure? But then I think at the end of whenever I circle back around and have a moment of questioning, it always comes back to I don't know what else I would do. I think I would just, what else am I going to do? There was a period when about before I started Incubate, our current business, our main business, in about 2016, 17, I was really bored. I was like, I was working like 2 days a week. I had enough money. I had time. The kids were doing fine. It was so boring. And I was like, you work to get somewhere. You go, I want financial freedom. I don't want to go to work in the morning. I don't want to work before 10 o'clock. I want to finish there. I want to work this many hours a week. And I was like, that's really boring. So I think
how long did it take to get boring? How long, when you were doing that, how long did it take to get boring? I think this is such an important point for people, because it's the cliche of it's the journey, not the destination.
It's like, almost like weeks, you know, almost instantly. I think as soon as I realized that picture of what I thought, what I thought was important, as soon as I realized I was there, I realized I didn't want to be there. That's why like Incubate is our vehicle for buying businesses. At the moment, we're focusing on we have 4 startups, and we sold one last just October.
Chris, I'm really sorry. My dogs are going nuts. Real life, everyone. My dog's going nuts downstairs, not stopping, and there's no one in the house. Bear with me 1 second to sort them out.
All right. Dun, 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 dun. Should I do some like what's she called? Interlude music.
The glamour of owning dogs. Sorry about that.
Dogs? You've only got one, haven't you?
We've got both of them at the moment because the family has COVID. So we've got one back. So we had 2. Yeah, we've got 2, but one stays with Owen's dad and Lolly. So they now have Poppy, and then she comes back to stay with us, and then Daisy goes there, and we have like a doggy daycare arrangement. So we've got 2 at the moment, which means they bark more than when they're on their own.
They playing. They're having fun. I couldn't hear them, so maybe no one else could.
Yeah, that's all right. They were getting louder. I think they thought someone was there, so they were setting each other off. When there's only one dog, they don't bark. When there's together, they
like children.
Yes, like children, like the people at Action Coach who all, you know, they go, come on, Chris, do a business. They all get excited and wind each other up. Same. So, sorry, we were talking.
I don't know what I was saying. We
were saying about business, how it is now, about the proverbial, you know, you get what you think you want and then you're bored within a week. And I think just for people listening, it's really important to get that. If you haven't got a dream beyond the dream, game over, because you get what you think you want, but if there's no plan for next, we get bored. I was the same. I remember my coach laughing at me when I was in my garden flat and I was financially free and I didn't have to do anything, and I used to walk Daisy and I literally had nothing to do. Same. I was bored, but there was a couple of months where I wasn't bored, and my coach literally laughed out loud at me. I was like, I could live like this forever, and she laughed out loud. She was just like, okay, let's see how long that lasts.
Yeah, I probably had a few weeks or a few days or a few months. There's moments. I'm not saying it was miserable. Yeah, it was.
No, it's fine, not right, but it's like we thrive on challenge, and it's such a paradox, because we actually feel good with the hard, and when it's really easy, it's like there's no fulfillment.
Yeah, Tony Robbins says happiness comes through progress, or something along those lines, and it's just so true. It's like last night. You can probably see I've got bags under my eyes. I'm a problem solver. I relish solving a problem. Like if you give me a problem, there's nothing more than I love than sitting down and coming up with the answer. And last night we've got one of our businesses doesn't really matter what it is. It's quite a boring technical thing that we're trying to figure out. And I thought I'll give it a go last night. And, I look up and it's 2:00 in the morning, and I'm like, that was a brilliant night. I really had a great time. And I think unless I know people who would be really pissed off with the idea that they were working on something like that for that long. But I think, well, what else is there? The alternative is what? Watching TV? Like, what are you going to do in those hours where, either people are asleep, watching TV? I don't know what other people do in those hours. But I can't. I just think that there's always something. The next thing I do will be my next most exciting thing. So I don't know what it is yet. We're currently working on this. That's been. I think that's been a surprise to me. I thought I'd want to retire and do nothing, but it turns out that's not an interesting thing to do.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I deal with in my book and on my money mastermind course is we deal with the money, and we also get people to figure out what they want to do for that very reason. Otherwise, they have the car crash that was me, which is I got financially free and then had a big identity crisis. So now, instead of having like 10 years getting financially free and 10 years figuring out, who I am and what I want to be and all of that world, it's like condense it down into 5 years. But I think one of my groups is, there at 5 years. It's like 20-year journey, boom, into 5 years. And the reason it works is because they're figuring out what they want to do, and they're building their dream.
And you're better at it.
Yes, sure.
Next time you do it, the next group that you do, you'll figure out some other hacks, and it'll go to 2.5 years. And that's what we do as humans. Is we take complex things, figure out what the actual the inputs and outputs are, and work out which ones are effective and which ones not, and just shrink it down until it's the most efficient it can be. I mean, so
just go back to your 20, you're 21, 22, you're starting with Action Coach, you've done all that, you then sign up as a business coach, we then meet. Like I said earlier on, brilliant stuff. And Amy, and there was quite a few of us actually back then that you were coaching and doing groups and stuff. Half the stuff you said to me, I wasn't ready to hear. The bit that's always stayed with me is, Alex, you do too many things. Just pick one damn business. And I was like, oh, that'll be boring. I can't do that. And, 20 years on, I'm like, yeah, Chris is right. I need to just focus on one thing. And I kind of knew you were right.
Chris is right. And he now has 7 businesses. So. Yeah.
Sure, but you have the infrastructure, right? It's like you're not doing it all. Whereas what you were saying to me back then when I had a catering company and I was doing weddings and ready meals and dinner parties and this and that, I was doing it all myself. And then I'd kind of employ employees because I had to, and then I'd hate that. And it was just it's just messy. And it's taken years to like work through all the stuff to become a better leader and a better manager and just being with people, actually being able to ask for help. So you were doing all of that. What happened then? We had a financial crash in 2008.
Yes, and I had a financial crash in 2008 also.
Okay.
So
I
coincided
think we all
with
had our
that.
own version of it, right? I
Yeah,
needed to bail out of a property deal at that point as well. It was anyone that was
yeah,
very unaffected.
yeah. I mean, mine was literally I had no assets, no cash in the bank. Really, I was um, living on the edge of my means, probably a little bit beyond it. And as the financial crash happened, a lot of clients that I was working with had to tighten up, and I lost a lot of business. Within like
Yeah.
3 months, I lost about 80% of my income.
Wow.
Um, and that was probably actually 2010 actually that happened. So it was like there was a delay because
Yeah.
2008 was the crash, and then
Yeah. And then it started to hurt.
actually really it hurt later on. So that was about
Yeah.
2010,
Yeah.
2009, 2010.
Yeah.
At the same time, or as it was happening, um, yeah. Well, actually, no. So I was a business coach up until about 2008. Then I had a couple of other companies. So one of them was a marketing business, telemarketing, direct sales, online event sales, that sort of thing. And we ended up running a big event, or the sales for a big event. And through that process, I met a guy called James Welsh. I'm going to call his name out now. I don't know where he is now. But we ended up running a business together called Roof Care UK, which was basically we would market nationally for roof repairs, roof renovations, flat roofing. Have the inquiries come to us.
Yeah.
We would go to Google Maps, check the property out, do the what do you call it, the sort of a loose survey based on what we could see on Google Maps. Not many people were doing it back then.
Yeah.
Provide a quote that we were quite comfortable with, and that was being served, or the work was being done by one of our local partners. So we built these 10 partnerships around the country with different roofers and roof installation. And that was going quite well. I mean, we did, I think our first 9 months, I remember us looking at the inquiry book. Sorry, our first 3 months. And I also remember looking at our inquiry book and the quotes we sent out. We sent out about £500,000 worth of quotes in like 3 months. So it was like,
Wow.
it was exciting. I thought there was an opportunity there. And anyway, a couple of things happened. One day, James is gone, no money in the bank, and this guy's just vanished.
Wow.
He appears. I start getting phone calls. So we close the business down because I need him. He's the guy with the roofing experience and the knowledge in the industry and the marketing side of it. He's the guy with the roofing.
Sure.
I have no idea about that. And so I started getting calls from customers that had booked jobs with him. They paid a deposit and he hadn't done the work. And I'm like, it's now not anything to do with me, because this is, I realize he's gone. A few weeks have passed, a few months have passed.
Yeah.
And then eventually someone sent me a message. He's on the watchdog, the ferret, the Welsh watchdog.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
The TV show? Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
where they're
someone
like, this tradesman did this to me, and la la la. Yeah.
Well, they're following him around with my Roof Care UK signs on his van. So luckily, we were really good. We had no sort of physical connections, no legal connections to him back then, but I was still getting some phone calls. I tried to help a few people out, but this guy's literally back then it was more difficult to track people down than perhaps it would be now.
Yeah. Sure.
And I didn't know what to do. I was, literally all the money that we put into it had gone. I felt awful because there was this guy out there, not that it was anything to do with me anymore, but there was this guy out there marketing what I was part of and basically ripping them off.
Wow.
So I don't really know whatever happened to him, but I think the watchdog, the ferret people, found him and just remember, I think I remember there was a letter from him or something saying he's going to pay all the customers back, and I don't know whatever happened to it, but that kind of knocked me for six. So coaching clients gone, roofing business failing, and then my wife, not at the time, came home and told me we're having our first baby. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Let's figure this bit out. Yeah. So in 2011, we moved to Germany. And the plan was Janina wanted to spend more time with her family, wanted to have the baby in Germany. And it kind of was good for me. It acted as like a break, from what had just happened. Yeah. Coaching clients on it was almost like, right, I need to reset, rethink. And I spent about a year. I got a couple of coaching clients. I had enough money to run a few coaching clients. We lived in a basement flat in Janina's mum's basement, so it was bedroom, kitchen, living room, all in one. It was about 25 square meters. Had our first child there, ended up staying there for 2.5 years, just figuring things out. And through that process, I thought I went back. I decided that I needed to rethink about what I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed the coaching, re-examine what I was good at within the coaching, not just randomly going out and going to BNI and picking some clients, but really focusing in on figuring out who I wanted to help, and what I was particularly good at, and where I'd actually sort of gathered the most knowledge. So I did a bit of went back to work with Action Coach as the director of coaching in the UK for a couple of years. Built a coaching practice of my own again. And then ended up back in, a few years later, like I said, bored because, I think I've got to that point already.
Yeah, it's like there's no challenge again, right? Yeah. And then
so now we are where we are.
So tell us about Incubate, your current company, what you do, how you help people using all of that, learning and knowledge and everything prior.
So to solve the problem, I like a problem, like you said. So to solve my problem of
needing a problem,
like to not be bored, like to have something to do. I thought if I could create something that would continually feed me with new work to do that I like doing, what would it look like? So I sat down and worked out the bits of starting a business, building a business, problem solving, all the bits that I like doing, sort of designed my perfect job and worked out what other pieces around me I would need to do that job properly. So one of the challenges with being a consultant or a coach or a freelancer is that at the end of the day, when the client stops paying you, you don't have any asset as such. You've got to have, you're not building any long-term income. So I decided that I needed something where we were building assets. So we weren't just doing the work once, we were doing the work and building, getting paid to do the work and building an asset for ourselves. So I basically designed Incubate and around me and a team of experts going into businesses with very specific skills around strategy, marketing, finance, and supporting a business to grow, using the business to fund our business and taking and investing in the business at the same time, so that we're building an asset for ourselves. So Incubate basically now works for around 3 years with every company, with a mission to 10x the value of the business in 3 years. So we're now in year 4. We sold our first one in October, and we've got 4 live companies at the moment. They'll be finishing with us in the next 18 months, 2 years, depending on when they come on. And that's our plan, is to keep just recycling that model. We're a team of now 5, and we're not looking to necessarily scale Incubate up. We like being, we still keep things flexible. we've all got kids, you know, we've all got similar backgrounds, and we've all got kids. We all like spending time traveling. We all like spending time working flexibly. We do, you know, I'm in my office here in Germany at the moment, but we don't really have a fixed abode, and that's how we like to keep things.
And what kind of businesses have you got that you're working with at the moment?
So we have an online business that helps people with sensory processing difficulties. We found that one from Dragon's Den. Didn't get investment on Dragon's Den. My sister actually found it. And we just sold our interest in a baby photography business. So that was a couple of locations, about £250,000, very small business when we got involved. 10 locations when we exited, and about 10 times growth in revenue. We actually franchise business, so we actually kept one of the franchises ourselves, even though we started the franchise. That was quite good. We have an internet company, an ISP, local ISP, competing with sort of the big providers in smaller rural locations. We have a health clinic, and we have some property and things like that. Just a couple of property things, but yeah, I think we're not looking for anything at the moment. I think that balancing, like, you know, I keep giving myself new problems. I could spend a long time going and finding more problems. I think I'm learning balance right now.
It's such an interesting one, isn't it? That one. I literally before this, I came off a call with my coach, and I said, do you know, I think my biggest achievement this year is the fact that for the next 2 weeks, I don't have a business coaching session because it's the Easter holidays and we've got kids and I'm not working. And actually, that's a bigger achievement for me than anything else, than selling more courses, than signing up more clients, than any of that stuff. Because actually, last year, I used up 40 sessions, which is supposed to be a year's worth, in 30 weeks. And I just didn't stop. It was like...
Oh, you mean the other way? You haven't got any coaching sessions with her, or you mean you're not delivering any?
Yeah. So you know, I'm off for Easter where I can be, where anything that's not, you know, not necessary, that's not clients. And actually, even with clients, there's, you know, Easter Monday is off. Whereas normally I'd just be like, hey guys, I don't care, it's a bank holiday, let's do this. Yeah, that was like almost my mantra.
And I'm still doing that. Yeah, I'm still doing that. But I don't, but at the same time, I don't make it a problem. I think we talked about this before, like overanalyzing. I'm getting better at stopping overanalyzing everything I do. And coaching myself or being coached on things aren't a problem. Like one of the challenges I've got with, I love when I go for coaching, and when I sit with my coaches, I'm going with a very specific question and problem that I want to solve, and for a long time, I think a lot of coaching ends up sort of uncovering problems that don't exist. And I know a lot of really, really happy people who've never been coached. And I know a lot of people who are being coached who are like really frustrated with where they are.
Yeah.
And I think, so like what you just said, it's Easter and I'm off, or you know, like I'm you know, and that's okay. I don't think I do that. You know, I've got Easter holidays coming up, and I know I've got work appointments mixed in with family stuff, and I'm okay. I'm just fine. I don't mind it, and I don't think my family doesn't mind it. We're not. And I say that, I can say that with confidence because we talk about it. You know, we're not. Yeah. It's not that it's being brushed under the carpet. It's like everyone knows that that's how it is, and that's what we've agreed to do right now. We're working on getting from here to here. Part of that is working those extra hours, and I'm not. I think you can give yourself, especially like anyone out there building a business right now, starting a business, trying to get somewhere from like very deliberately, I'm here and I want to be there. Anything like that is hard. You've got to put effort in. You got to make sacrifices, a price to pay, and to try to sort of give yourself a hard time for not balancing your life perfectly, for not going and doing every area of your life while you're trying to get from A to B. It's just another bit of pressure to add to yourself. It just makes it harder again to do it. So I think I just try and give myself a bit of a break about sometimes I'm working too hard. Sometimes I'm too lazy. Sometimes I go to the gym frequently enough. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes, it's like, as long as I'm constant, I just have to keep checking to make sure that if I've done too much of one thing, I have to go back and balance it out. And I think that's what I'm working on most at the moment, is just spotting.
And it's balance over time, isn't it? It's like you might have times when you're working really hard, and then as and when you scale back or you go on holiday or whatever, but it's not, like you say, trying to get everything in balance all the time. It's too much to focus on. I mean, I get my clients now in Mission Mastermind to focus on one thing. It's like, what are we going to do this year and focus on? Whether it be a business or having a baby or growing a business or getting fit or losing weight or whatever it is, but like, let's pick one thing and do it really well. Not try and do everything, in balance every day.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that was. I don't know whether that is a problem suffered more by the coached versus the non-coached, or whether everyone worries about that all the time. Because I can only speak for the coached, but I did feel that some of the coaching I received put me under more pressure than I needed to put myself under, and I was actually happier and more productive without someone on my back and just trying to figure out what do I have to do today. I think that comes from clarity of knowing where you want to go as well. Like most people I talk to, we talk about this a lot. Like most people, if they come and they're challenged by where they are, 9 times out of 10, they don't know where they want to go. It's like
I experience that all the time. It's the biggest thing I coach on, is like, what do you want? And it sounds so simple because everyone knows what they don't want. And they're like, I don't like this, I don't like that, this is shit, this is that. I'm like, okay, great. What do you want? Like actually getting human beings, and I have this problem too, and we all do, actually getting human beings to focus on what they want, not what they don't want, is it's massive. And I'd say if anyone's
can't do anything from
this, say again.
I think so. You can't do it when I'm in when I'm in complaining, or when I'm focusing on where I am at the moment on my frustrations. I don't have any power to move to something else. All my attention is on where I am at the moment and what I don't like, and so there's no way to move out of frustration and anger and depression and sadness and whatever it is until you've figured out what's next. One of my favorite things is like, what's next? Like, so this is how I am now. What does it look like later on today? Like, how do I get from being in a bad oh God, Thermomix, right? Yeah. We have to have a conversation about Thermomix, because one appeared in my kitchen 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Right. So I told you about you. Well, you didn't come actually to Kev's, but we had the conversation with Kev about his Thermomix. I said Janina wants one. I don't want to get one. Anyway, I got quite evangelical about why I don't think a Thermomix is a good idea. Anyway, one appeared in my kitchen on Saturday, and I was angry, and so I'm like, how do I get to the end of the day? What do I get on Sunday? I'm like, how do I go from being angry and frustrated that there's a Thermomix kitchen? If you don't know what it is, it's like a mixer that cooks and slices and does cools and makes.
It kind of sells itself that it does everything.
Yeah, it does everything. It's some magical thing, right? And it turns out that actually, like, it's. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it because I'll get in trouble. The idea of it frustrates me. It's like, if you want to make some soup, and in this machine, the selling points are that you put the ingredients in and it does a little bit of chopping, and it cooks it and it times it and it bings when it's done, and it tells you on a little screen when you should put the ingredients in the pan. And I'm like, right, so that's like a recipe book. And they're like, no, because it chops them up. So you don't just put the ingredients in whole, you have to still chop them up first of all. Yeah, you still have to chop them up first of all. Anyway, so I'm angry about this machine on Sunday. So I have to go back. What's next is like, if I'm going to get to the end of the day and not upset everyone in the house, then I'm going to have to figure out what next looks like. How am I going to get from there? And I have to sort of play it out. So yeah, it's like living in frustration about where I am, what's not working. I try to spend a few minutes figuring out what does the other side look like, working backwards, and then have a breath and then get started on it. Yeah, it's not an easy practice, but that's like
practice
just
is the right word.
Like it's practice.
Yeah. And practice is the right word, whether it's pissed off about a Thermomix or big problem in business because something's not working or whatever it is. That's a brilliant mantra. It's like, okay, what's next? Whereas when people are stuck, they're literally, aren't they? They're stuck in the thing and they're making the thing worse, and they're complaining about, like, to use your Thermomix, which is such a brilliant example, because anyone listening to this who's going, oh my God, this guy's got like 6 businesses and he does all this stuff, and like they're just listening going, I can't connect to that. We'll connect to the Thermomix because we all can connect to that in some way, right? Something happens that pisses us off, but actually it's so brilliant. You can spend all day. My one is, huffing and puffing and slamming doors. We've all got our version of how we let the world know that we're pissed off. And we could either do that and focus on it and get annoyed with it and phone a friend and phone, a family member and complain about it, or we can actually go, what's next? What a brilliant practice for people. And that doesn't matter whether it's, something's just gone wrong in our business or a kitchen appliance has turned up that we do not want. It doesn't matter.
It is stupid. It's a ridiculous device. No one needs one.
Well, maybe Yanina likes it.
Let's not get into it. I think, I think the other thing is, like, sitting here and talking about it like this is very easy, like in the moment. Like applies in the moment. It's really hard. Like, and it could be about a Thermomix, but it could be just about life. Yeah. Like, we've had chats over the last 6 months about, maybe there's another place, maybe we don't want to continue to be in Germany. Maybe we do want to be in Germany. And there's you've got to put the effort in to have those conversations and about, with yourself, with your wife. It's hard work. None of this is by accident. Accidents generally don't lead to like stuff I'm grateful for or that I appreciate or I think about enjoying. Like, most of the stuff is very deliberate. Yeah.
And do you have, so when you've spoken quite a lot about that, just stopping and thinking things through, which I think is so valuable, and most people don't ever give themselves the time to literally just stop and just think about it with, distractions turned off, shut the office door, actually look at the problem and problem solve, like you say you love doing. So have you got, like, how do you get yourself to do that when everything's so busy and people have got so many demands on your time? And have you got a thing that you do? Is there a place that you go? How do you do that?
I think it's just practice as well. I don't know how good a job I do at it. But so we're in some chat groups. I'm in there, but I'm not in there. Like, that you don't, if you need me, you have to send me a direct message or an email or phone me. Like, I don't participate in those things. I don't participate in, so for the last 3 years, I don't really participate in any of that stuff. And I didn't find it hard to give it up. I found it was so easy. So I eliminate all of that noise. And I'm really disciplined with my diary at work. So every every role I have, I think is how I kind of think about it. So, you know, everyone's got different hats. So I've got a CEO hat for Incubate. I've got a chairman hat for some of the companies I'm in. I've also got like a salesperson hat for some of the companies. Like there's big project sales that we want to do, and I'm like the best person to do the selling. So I wear that hat. I'm a dad. I'm a dad to an 11-year-old boy, or a 10-year-old, soon to be 11, and a 6-year-old girl, and a 3-year-old boy. And I've got different hats for each of them because they need different things from me. I'm a husband, so it's like I break. Maybe this is too clinical for most people, but this is like the only way I know how to do it. I literally have broken down. Okay, what do I do for Max, my son? What does he need from me? How frequently does he need my time? When he comes home from school, what's my role there, and how much time does it need to be? And so that's basically how I think of it. I break it all down, and I work out when those things have to happen, and I have a diary, and it's in my diary. All of those roles, all of those actions are in my diary. I've got, you know, I'm a brother. I diarize every month a note that pops up in my calendar once a month at specific slots as well. Like it's not. I don't plan it to the actual time, but in a certain week, a note comes up, call your brother. Another note comes up saying, call your mum. Another note comes up saying, call your sister. And I think, I suppose you get a bit cynical about like how, if you have to plan it all in, do you really, you know, is it really that important to you if you have to remind yourself to do all those things? But how else can you do all of those things without organizing it and putting some effort into it? Like if you're serious about anything, surely you've got to put effort and energy and time into making sure that you get it done. And so how do you know if you're getting it done? Like how would I know if I'm so? I think that's it. It's just the energy and effort that goes into making sure I do all of those things. And you know, I know that sometimes it means that I'm miss out. That we're in a group that we talk with every week. Sometimes I miss it because I go, well, there's priorities, and this one outranks this one, and this one outranks this one, and I'm just okay with saying no when it's a no, when something outranks it. I don't know how many people do that. I think.
Do you think have you practiced saying no, or is it something that you've always been able to do? I mean, that's another massive one, right? It's not what we say yes to, it's what we say no to. And I have a lot of clients who struggle to say no and struggle to, you know, it's like that's just one of the types of people I attract, because that's something that I've struggled with in the past. And it's that being straight about it and go, so no, sorry, I'm not going to be there, and being okay with that. Not being like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and I wish I could be there, and I just can't, and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, I'm not going to be there. Boom, simple. So would you say that's a natural ability, or is it, again, something you've practiced?
I think it's definitely something I've practiced, and I think I would still be apologetic. So, you know, I used to get coached around this a lot. You should never apologize for saying no to someone. Well, sometimes it's just polite to say, to say no, to apologize for not coming to something. But I think what I'm trying to say is I still have too many things in my diary for some people to cope with. So most people look at my diary. I've got in Germany at the moment, we have a co-working space here. And so some of our tenants are out there. With our newest one, Bettina, came to me the other day and said she wants to have 5 minutes with me. And I was hoping to catch you in the day. But like, there's no opportunity to catch me in the day because my days are back to back. And that's, most people don't understand that most people think that's kind of, what's the word? What most people say to me is, Chris, you're always so busy. When are you going to have a rest? When are you going to put some time aside to do some other things? You've been in this situation for a while now, and you're not getting any time to do these things. But I'm like, I'm designing it this way. Like,
it's like I'm choosing.
Like That's right. So I think to say that I'm getting better, I don't know. Maybe I do need to reevaluate. Maybe I need to put some more blocks in for some downtime. But for me, I'm saying I'm just every day. I want to do as much as I can every day. The weekends for me are frustrating. It's like, it's like
I so resonate with that.
it's like, yeah, it feels like the world stops sometimes, especially here in Germany. Like 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, nothing's open on Sunday. I'm like, this is, when's Monday morning coming? It's like they can get going again. That's why as well. So that's why I do the roles thing. Like if you're entrepreneurial people, people who are on a mission, like you, like me, like people listening to this, probably do resonate with like that Sunday, like the world stopped. I've got to go spend some time with my family. Like the only way I can cope in that role, being a dad and being a family member, is if I plan something. So it's like Sunday is like, we're going swimming, we're going for a walk, we're going here, I'm making dinner, I'm making I've got a plan. Like I've got to be the one. I've got to know what I'm doing. Like the idea of waking up and sitting on the sofa and waiting for the day to happen is just does not work for me. That would lead to another angry Thermomix moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it's a paradox of scheduling, isn't it? I come up against this with my clients and they're like, I can't schedule all the time. It's like a prison. And often when I then look at a schedule with them, I'm like, but all you've scheduled in is work. There's nothing in there. Like you haven't even scheduled in lunch or like in my schedule between 3 and 5 every day. It's picking the kids up, spending time with them, getting dinner on the table. Between 5 and 7, it's eating dinner, clearing up, bath time, story time, bedtime. Like that's in my schedule. It's not it's not work. It's like, and it's fully scheduled all the way through to, 9 o'clock. It's like, okay, it's time to, wind down and go to bed. And I think people misunderstand what we're talking about when we're saying we're scheduled. And I have the same thing. People are like, can we just have a quick chat? I'm like, yes, in 3.5 months on Tuesday at 2 o'clock while I'm walking the dog. Sure, I can have a chat to you then. And it's, I think.
But also planning that time in, just like like Monday mornings for me are open in my calendar for people to call me. So people do call and say, can we have a chat? So I schedule it, block it, I do allow things like that. Yeah.
But it's scheduled. It's like everything's scheduled. Fun stuff.
Sitting down and
going to the gym, whatever it is. Dog walking is in my schedule. Like the whole thing. And I think that's where then and this isn't about, again, going back to balance. It's not having the same things. Like, oh, I must do this. It's like, it's just, well, it's accounting for reality. It's accounting for going to bed on time. It's accounting for holidays. And like you say, if it's a day off, I still have a schedule. We still stick to.
But it's permission. It's permission to make sure I fit everything in. Because the amount of people who tell me, or the story people tell themselves is there's not enough hours in the day, or I'm not getting all the things done I want to get done. And that happens to me a lot as well. But when it does happen, I know that, okay, that block of time that I was supposed to do this task here, I can move over there, so I can relax and know that it's going to still get done. I'm not worried about the work I didn't get done now because I've moved it. Or it's like permission to, like, Sunday make dinner, and that will take me from like 2 o'clock till 7 o'clock, like to dinner and do all whatever it is, and then go. And in that time, I can sit down and I can do that and focus on that and enjoy doing that, and not worry that I'm missing out on the project that I've got to prepare for on Monday because I've scheduled the time in for that as well. It's like I do it as well to try to give myself like permission to do those things.
And what would you say? I think what's interesting as well that's coming up for me when you're saying this and we're having this conversation is that when people have a job, they have a boss that tells them what to do and where to be and what time to, generally, unless they work for you and you get them to write their own contract and all the rest of it. But, you know, like standard jobs out there in the world where the boss says, this is where you show up, this is when you show up, this is what you're doing, all of that world. So I think the interesting thing about scheduling as well, especially for self-employed people listening to this, and especially for people starting out, when there's stuff to do, but there's not... You know, and I'd be interested in your take on this, because like now my business is full and busy and I'm like, okay, how can I outsource that? How can I streamline that? How can I make that more effective? I have to deal with my time. Whereas when I very first started out, it was kind of like, well, what should I do when? And there's no clients yet. And, you know, just kind of wandering around going, well, what do I do? That, you know, you don't have, when you're self-employed, you don't have a boss that says, let's do marketing or let's do sales or let's, you know, show up for work at this time. So what would you say to people who are starting out or who are self-employed, who aren't scheduling, who are a bit kind of...
I'd say, what do you want? Because I think there's nothing wrong with being a one-man band freelancer, 5-man band, 20-man band, running your life like that. But if you do, you will get the results of a business, a life organized like that.
Yeah.
And that could be really enjoyable. Like that could be really good. As I did that. Go back to my coaching when I was bored. You know, that was that. I had a really flexible life. I could fit everything in when I needed to fit it in. It was fun. One of the things I learned with Incubate is we brought in some corporate people. So people who worked in corporate jobs, which I've never done, you know, I've never been employed. I don't think I would go. I don't think it would work very well for me, but I didn't really know what that world was like. And we've brought in some very senior people from some of the biggest, best organizations, you know, in the world. Like our chairman is the global head of trading for the London Stock Exchange. We made sure that we've got someone in there who's like seen businesses go from this to this. And what that's taught me is that it's quite good to have a boss for some people and some roles. So what do you want? Do you want to build a corporate? Do you want to build a business that's going to scale and grow and be a saleable item? In which case, I think a lot of that structure and discipline and like sort of forced discipline is probably good. Like it's really helped. You know, I was resisting it for a long time while I was by myself because I wanted to sort of I wanted every decision about every single thing to come past me, and that does work for a certain size business, and it can be very financially rewarding, very time rewarding. But if you're that sort of discipline that really good corporate employees have, how they run a meeting, how they, like the difference I noticed like between small business and what we've brought in, I think comes down mainly to management and organization skills. So it's the difference in the way that the people who've come from the corporate background approach, just like our daily stand-up meetings and our our weekly meetings, and how prepared they are when they come to them, and the clarity of actions that come out of them it's not just a little bit better than most small business meetings that I go to. It's like 10 times better. It's like there's no space in those meetings when they're there for misunderstanding or tasks to not be clear. And I've learned a lot from bringing those people in. And I think the second thing is that they keep work and personal. Yeah. So which, you want to have a blend. I'm not saying there's no personal relationships there, but when we're having a work conversation, we have a work conversation. And I think a lot of small businesses, so when people are starting out, they want to bring too much of they want to sort of mix it all up too much, and they want a happy kind of easygoing, freewheeling sort of business because now they're the boss and it's going to be my way. But actually, there's the reason these companies are big, the reason they're corporate companies and they're so efficient is because they're well-oiled machines. They run like that. So I think I've learned especially over the last 4 years, if you ask about starting out, I would have considered earlier bringing in sort of corporate people with lots of management experience and organization experience that I probably turned my nose up at before because I thought it was all sort of and ties and too formal, and I thought we could be a bit sort of more relaxed, and it didn't work out. It was too noisy. It was like I'm not sure what the question was.
Sorry, it's very interesting to hear that. It's that, how do people who are starting out bring in structure? How do they do it? So I think that's, really useful to sort of point out and remind people that often I think self-employed people are kind of running away and wanting to be their own boss, right? It's the classic, I didn't like my boss and the way they did it, so I'm going to do it my way and do it differently. And what comes out of that is what you just described. It's kind of like, relax, we're all friends here, it's all good. But the downside of that is, it doesn't work actually without it's the same conversation as getting people to schedule versus just going, well, I'll just show up at my desk and figure out the day. It's like, my brain can't cope with that. The amount of junk flying around, my space rubbish, I call it, going, oh God, what's going to happen when and all of that. As soon as I've actually diarized it, I know when it's going to happen. So it's off my space rubbish. I'm not thinking about it anymore. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you say to... I don't think we can have this conversation at this point in history where Ukraine is at war, energy prices are, if you listen to the news, the worst thing that's ever happened to us since the 19 God knows what's, and all of that. And I have an opinion that, it's like, well, this is just the latest thing, that prices always go up and that there's always something going wrong. I mean, even just us talking about, your history, we've talked about the financial crash and about moving and about business partners who have, emptied the bank and gone off. It's like the content of all of that, for me, it's like the latest content is the war and energy prices and the impact that that's having. And there's a whole world of, emotional stuff for me. Like I'm finding, the war thing, like really tough to stomach, to kind of be like, what really on a daily basis, like really it's now, we're here now, and then now this is happening and all of that. And then it's impacting, just getting on a global scale how connected everything is. Like, I didn't really know anything about Ukraine 2 months ago. You said, tell me about Ukraine. I'm like, I don't know. Now I know most of the names of the cities. I know where it is on the map geographically. I know who its neighbors are. I mean, on a level that I never expected to know. I know that it produces a huge amount of wheat. If you said to me 2 months ago, where does wheat come from? I go, I don't know, here, there, and everywhere. Now it's like, the Ukraine. And so anyway, what's your take on everything that's going on? What impact is it having on businesses? How do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with it on a mental health, psychological level of like just everything, the human side of it, the business side? What we can do, what we can't do. I think
the last 2.5 years, 3 years have been mentally taxing. Like I put it, that's as friendly as I can put it. Really, it's
COVID.
It's been awful. Like, it's been awful in the sense of seeing how other people have struggled. I've struggled with how other people have struggled.
Yeah.
I've struggled myself because I didn't think it was coming. I never thought, like, I had nothing to sort of, I had no previous experience of anything like this ever happening to kind of even have a picture of what it might be like, like a recession. Maybe we had sort of, 2008 thing. I could have dealt with that, but like this would be so far out of my thought process, like everyone. I don't think anyone would have predicted it, apart from, you know, the few people who've written a few books or go onto YouTube and said we saw it coming. You know, like everyday people.
But the majority of us just had no idea. Yeah.
No, we weren't prepared for it.
Yeah.
And pre-COVID, I would almost smirk about sort of the what do you call those people who prepare for wars and live in bunkers and all that sort of stuff?
People.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and over the last 2.5 years, I've been like, oh my, they're all right. like I've got to get a shovel and dig a hole in my garden, and then living where we live. So we live in West Germany, about an hour from the border of France, surrounded by US bases. In the last month, those bases have exploded with activity. I'd say every couple of nights there's a convoy of transport aircraft, bombers, like low flying over our house. You can sort of see it's like 10, 20 aircraft flying over, transporting things. That happens, you know, frequently. Just down the road in this direction and just down the road in that direction. So 10K that way, 10K that way. You've got two big bases that are so last Thursday they were pretty empty. A week before they were heaving with tanks and all sorts there. So it's very real here. You know, we're connected to the same bit of land.
Yeah.
That the Ukraine is on. You could drive there in 18 hours, and people are like from our town. People are going back and forth delivering things. So it's quite real.
Yeah. I don't think we have the connection in the UK like that. I mean, there are people doing stuff, but you know, actually being near a base where there's actual full-on military stuff, that makes it again real on another level, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the fuel prices. We've got friends of ours who've literally gone and bought themselves a tanks for storing diesel. So like a couple of 1,000-litre tanks, a mini petrol station. They've filled those up, taken out, you know, several tens of thousands in cash just to keep under the mattress or in the safe. You know, like there's people around doing that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't think I'm prepared. I was prepared, but I am. Over the last couple of years, I've been preparing, not for this, but just because of what you said about I'm prepared to take some risks in our business. I'm prepared to keep investing. And again, going back to this thing about organizing my life sort of in a more organized corporate way than I ever thought I would in the last few years, treating our business finances and our personal finances as two separate things.
Yeah,
I've kind of always known that, and I've kind of always thought about it, but it's been difficult when you're the person in the business who makes the money, the coach, the consultant, the freelancer, the designer, whatever it is. You're kind of, and your business finances and your personal finances should be separate, but they're kind of not. You know, they're the same thing. You know, if you get a big contract in, you go and celebrate and you buy, you know, and that's really poor practice. And so, you know, I pay myself, you know, a salary. It's the same. Doesn't matter what the business is doing. I'm clear about when, you know, we are cash flowed up, like projected out. We know for at least 9 months in advance exactly where we're going to be and how we're going to afford to pay all of the salaries in the business. And I know it's not going to change. So I've kind of disconnected the ups and downs of making the next sale in work or making the next contract in work and rewarding myself with that. There's a disconnect now because it's just like I got a job to do at work, and that's so. I guess what I'm saying is like this whole Ukrainian thing. That's like the way I'm coping with it is knowing that I've prepared, and I've given myself a window of time, and the things I used to be worried about when COVID happened, when anything like this would have happened before, I don't have to worry about so much because I've sort of organized my life to be sort of a little bit more protected from the ups and downs of what might be going on out there.
And how do you deal with it within the business? So that's really I think that's really powerful to say that, actually. And I would say I'm probably getting to that point because I've been the same journey, right? There's a level to which, property income's fairly stable, although, that was wiped out with the tax changes that we've all had the last few years. And I've had to put anything into a limited company. So it was kind of like, it wasn't a recession, but that was like, oh, you thought you had that income. Now, actually, for several years, you don't. And it's going to take several years to recover and basically get back to where it was before. So that was kind of stable. Then it wasn't. And I know it will be again. And same with the coaching practice and, everything that I've done. And it's really interesting. Only a couple of weeks ago when we were on our group call and, you were going like, well, what do you want? Where are you getting to? And it was really, the way you ask questions is so brilliant. Because I was like, I don't know. I never kind of expected. I know I've been working towards being this successful. I know I've been writing the book for years that's coming out this year. I know I've written the coaching programs and I keep taking actions, but there's a level to which I kind of don't believe it's really going to happen. And then it sort of is, and I'm like, oh, okay, now it's happening. Now what do I do? And it's almost like, I don't know whether it's because of going through the recession in 2008 and then the tax changes in the property business. And, like you said, you had a coaching business, but actually it's one of the things that goes when clients are cutting back. But it's a brilliant place to get to disconnect it. And I encourage my clients to keep it separate, but it's a psychological thing. Even if you've got separate bank accounts, like you say, there's this psychological thing of, oh, I've done well in the business, so yay in the personal finances. So outside of that separation,
or I've got a bounce back loan. I can go, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yay. But how do you?
Don't get me wrong, right? So I still have to work very hard to make what I said.
Yeah. Well, that's my question really.
Day.
It's like, how do you make that when you've then got business hat on and CEO hat? How do you deal with? So although you've separated it, so personally now there's this kind of like stability, and it's like you get this much a month and you're salaried. How do you deal with what I would call a continuing shit show of stuff happening in the world that now, whereas maybe 50 years ago it wouldn't impact us in the same way, like anything that happens now in another country becomes a global problem because of how connected we all are. How do you deal with that as a business owner? And what would you say to people to prepare for effectively that, look, there's the next thing coming. It was COVID. We've had a recession. There's a tax change. Now it's the Ukraine war. Energy prices are going up. So we're going to go into some kind of recession, interest, blah, blah, blah. How do you deal with that on an ongoing basis and still get up and fight another day?
I think like everybody, I'm not going to pretend that it's like everything is easy, because it's really, really not easy. It's really hard. But I guess I'm okay with it being hard. Like I know that I've kind of chosen this path.
Yeah.
And the alternative is go and get a consulting job in the city or retire, like as a business coach, go and do 3 days a week, non-exec work or coaching work. Like when I paint the picture of what else I could be doing and what other problems I would be dealing with, I don't like what that looks like. I think this is like, actually I always come back to, well, this is the problem you've chosen to, this is the battle you've chosen to take. These are the problems you've chosen to deal with. And so flip it around and what's next? And then I pull myself back together, sit with your Nina, have a moan, have an argument about a Thermomix, become friends again, sit down, chat it through, re-look at, right, where are we heading again? Remind ourselves of that. Remind myself of that. Remind myself of, right, what is the problem that I've got at the moment? Would I change? Could I get rid of that problem if I wanted to? How would I get rid of it? It's like just constant every day. It's like, you've seen that meme on the internet with like the average day in the life of an entrepreneur. It's like, I'm going to rule the world. Oh my God, I'm going bust. And it's like, different emotions throughout the day. Like, we're going to 10x the business. I'm going to sell everything tomorrow. Like, and it's like that.
Yeah.
Most people I know who are building something entrepreneurial go through that sort of emotional cycle several times a day. It's like, I do. I think I don't know. There's no, you can't, the only way I know is like, I've chosen this path, and you build resilience to that and kind of realize I'm doing it again. I'm back where I started 3 hours ago, reset, take a break, have a drink, let's go again. I think what would I do without doing that? I think I always end up back in that place. The alternative is going and working for some corporate company. Can I imagine, right? So Monday morning next week, I give this all up. I get a job in KPMG in the city, and I have to fly to London or get on a Zoom call for the next 4 hours or whatever it is, whatever I ended up doing. Does that appeal to me more than this? And I never, to date, the answer has always been no. I'll stay where I am. Thank you very much. So I think that's it. I don't think there's a,
I guess what I'm hearing acceptance in your voice of what is. It's like, it's like accepting the way it is and then dealing with it rather than fighting against the way it is.
Yeah, and also just realizing that life is hard. Life is like we are. Why does it have to be easy? Like the idea that it's supposed to be roses every day, and that I don't know where that comes from. I don't understand. Like I think it probably comes from like the self-help coaching industry somewhere, that there's this perfect picture of a life that you can have that is roses every day, and you wake up jumping out of bed and singing a song to the birds in the garden, or like it's like. Is that really? Do you really know anyone like that? Really, who lives like that every day?
Only on the posters in the marketing thing where someone's spraying perfume and then magic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a marketing thing, isn't it?
It's a marketing. Yes, exactly. It's a sales and marketing.
Buy this and life will be brilliant.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a dangerous goal to chase. And that's why I think that's probably how I deal with it. I gave up on trying to make my life perfect and it be like, that's another reason why being off social media and all of that sort of stuff is really, really good, because you don't get to see this image of what, this sort of filtered image of the world. You get to see your life every day. And, this morning is, at 2:00 this morning, I'm getting all my kids, Matilda and Matteo are in bed with Yanina, pushing me and kicking me, and like it's nice. It's like there's no. If I'd lived in if I had spent time reading that evening watching a video about kids must be in their like perfect parenting, that moment last night could have been ruined, if that makes sense. I'm sure there are rules about this, but like sometimes it's better for me just to kind of focus on what's in front of me, and that was my kids in bed, and that was nice. And so and so I think it's like less of that, less of focusing on what other people think perfect looks like or where I should be going, and just more time actually just doing it. And
it's interesting. I think I remember doing Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within years and years ago. I don't know, I can't even remember how old I was now, maybe 26.
I was gonna say, like 2000. You think you did it? Like I remember you going.
I've done it twice, so I did it in it was early 20s, and I remember then, and the kind of thing in personal development back then was like, turn off your damn TV. It was across the board. It was like, stop watching TV, turn it off. It's there was all the I still remember the thing. It's like, do a dream board, put it in front of your TV, And if you want to watch TV, you've got to move your dreams out the way, and all of that kind of stuff. And like TV stands for total vegetable, and blah 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 blah. And it's so interesting how I think the thing for me around social media, because everything you just said, it's like you're comparing, like if you're having a bad day with everyone's perfect day, which isn't really their perfect day, it's just what they want everyone to think, and all of that world. It's almost like, for me, social media kind of replaced TV in that sense of, I watch TV very specifically. I've just watched, I've just binge watched Bridgerton, and I kind of hated that I loved it, but I did it, and it was intentional. I don't just, finish the day.
There's nothing wrong with social media even. And
yes, when it's like,
it's not,
there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just that whole being conscious around it, I think, rather than just sitting there watching TV or just sitting there scrolling and not really getting, the thing that's happening. But that's just getting that life is hard, I think, is really powerful. So I think it's really nice to hear people say that, rather than going, no money, no mortgage, no problem, financially free in 6 months, you'll be a millionaire tomorrow, business is easy, just do this. Like, fuck off. Like, where and when did that ever happen? Like, as yet, I've not met anyone who's done that. I've never met anyone who's gone, it was really easy.
I think it's also it depends on what your metric is for happiness or success or fulfillment or whatever it is. So could I make more money? Like all those people are probably right. The way I make money right now could be more efficient. I could probably make more money than I'm making right now. And someone probably does know something. Yeah. There is probably some Bitcoin crypto hack that I don't know about that I could use to make £1 million in an hour next week. But that doesn't. It's like, and that's an attractive dream for a lot of people to go and chase. But the point of it is, like, if I think I've realized that none of those. I'm not motivated to implement that stuff. So because I know that because my metric for being happy is to do just what the Incubate thing, I wanted to give myself endless problems to solve. I'm really happy solving those problems, even though I might get frustrated by it, even though it's hard, even though I keep circling back. Like I said, it's like up and down every day. At the end of the day, these are the problems I really like solving. So even if I do watch a video that says I can make £1 million in a week, I'm never going to implement all the stuff that person teaches me. It's never going to work for me. So, the idea of chasing all those, quick solve your problems in an hour type strategies is just. I don't know why we're so attracted to it. I don't know why we haven't learned our lesson. I don't think we ever will. Like, it's just in our nature to see those things as appealing. Yeah, it's like
shiny things. It'll be different over there. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. So what I'm hearing, main takeaways are: know what you want, which I can't second enough. It's like, know what you want, ask what's next. And I like that as well. It's like, what's your happiness metric? Because even that is so personal, isn't it, to all of us? It's like, what is your happiness? And it changes too, right? Like, my happiness metric was, well, if I can walk my dog at any point in the day, just because I can, that was it. Whereas now it's like, it's not that. It's to do with, my business and how my kids are and all of that. So, any final thoughts for anyone who is, I'm going to say not just starting a business, but anyone who's just dealing with a shit show? Any final words of wisdom for anyone listening that's really struggling right now, that's just like, oh my God, XYZ is happening and I don't feel like getting back up again, other than what you've already said?
Have a walk, have a rest, have a sleep, have a beer, a glass of wine, go and do something else, and then come back to it in a couple of days. I think just detaching yourself from it might feel, it's like, my most frustrating points have been when I've sort of sat with a problem for so long, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because I'm focusing on it. I feel like it's getting overwhelming. And when I'm forced to have it, when I literally like will fall over because I'm too tired, or I'm forced to go do something else, the kids come in, or it doesn't happen so very frequently these days, but I'm thinking back to like times in the past where, if something happens, I've got to go somewhere, come back to the problem, and either it doesn't exist, like it's completely different, it's gone away, or I've solved it somehow while I was doing something else. So yeah, just give yourself a break, go and do something else, and you'll come back and you'll find a way. You'll always find a way. There's always a way.
I love the simplicity. It's not easy what you're asking people to do, and it is really simple. And I think people miss that actually drink plenty of water, get fresh air, get some exercise, eat right. It's like so simple. It's not easy, and we forget it. And it's just I really acknowledge you for sharing that and just being straight about it. You don't, and I think that's one of the things I've always loved about the questions you ask when we're on our group calls or just when we're in conversation is it's never complicated with you. It's like it's simple. And again, I'll reiterate, it's not easy, but it actually the thing that I think we sort of all are looking for this magic answer or the silver bullet or whatever, and actually we come back to basics, and then the answers are there if we just sit down and spend some time with it. So thank you for sharing your story and where you've been, and what it's taken to get where you are, and actually sharing the honesty and about it's really fucking hard sometimes, rather than the glitzy glamour side of it. I think that's the thing that's occurring on this podcast is that it's about when people follow what they're passionate about, and yours is solving problems and then go to work on creating problems so you can solve them, or going out to find them. It's like the theme is there, is the happiness comes from doing what we want, figuring it out, and like you say, looking at what's next. So thanks for sharing your journey and your thoughts on business and everything that you've done so far. Really
Thanks for having me. I don't intend to do many podcasts or chat to many people like this. It does.
Well, yes, so I do feel honoured as well, because I know that you are like the guy behind the scenes. You sort of make a lot of shit happen, but no one really knows who you are in that sense. So I thank you for taking the time out of actually what is a bloody busy schedule and all the rest of it, so that people can hear what you
always do it for you. So love all the. Oh, you keep breaking up. Love all the show. Are we still on?
We're still there. Yeah.
Okay, you froze on my screen. No, love all the what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next group come through. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's exciting times, even when everything's all over the place. There's always stuff to do, isn't there? So, all right. Thanks, Chris. I don't know whether you want people to find you, because I have it that you don't and you're not looking for business. But if people do want to look you up or have kind of heard you talking and, do want to run something by you or have a business that they'd like to line up as the next Incubate, what's the best way for people to find you if you'd like them to?
You can look us up on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile's there to be contacted. That's the best way, I suppose.
Okay. And we'll put the links, if that's all right with you, we'll put the links in the YouTube channel, in the bios and stuff, so that people can find if they want. You never know. So I don't want to not say that bit, and so that people can't find you if they're like, God, I want to work with this guy. I've got this XYZ idea. So
feel free to send a message. I'm always open. I never, like I said, if you've got an interesting problem to solve, I will not be able to say no. So
there you go, folks. That's how you get to Chris Gibbons. You tell him what your problem is, and then you'll get him hooked. So don't go to him with I've got this amazing business idea and it's all going to be easy. Go to him with I've got this idea, but I've got this really big, juicy problem to solve. And you'll probably get a response. Amazing. All right. I think.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Chris. Speak to you soon.
See you soon.
Cheers. We're just going to end up now. Thanks for listening, everyone.